Hi there, I'm Kimile, and this is Heal with Kimile podcast. Let's get started. I just had a session with some amazing people. They're married for 4.5 years. And what has been going on with them is she is triggered. Now, what is a trigger? Trigger is when you're upset about something that happens and you don't really know quite how to get over it. So everyone gets triggered. That's just a common name anymore, is what's going on with someone. I'm triggered. So I'm upset is really what it's saying. I'm upset. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I'm triggered. So in the field of the mind, when you're triggered into a past painful memory or something that's incomplete from your past, that past memory superimposes on the present time. And it seems like, feels like, smells like, sounds like that past issue or past concern or past trauma is happening all over again. And we human beings live our life to never go through that again, whatever that again means to people. But that again stuff is, we don't want the past to happen all over again. We don't want the pain all over again. So when people get triggered, they're reliving their past in their head. That's their story. That's their past emotion that they haven't processed through. So how do you deal with that? How do you fix that? A lot of couples come in, we're triggering each other. We're just upset with each other all the time. Well, the amazing truth about that is it's not about your partner. It's about you, and it's about your past, and it's about your trauma, your childhood, whatever you haven't really talked about or worked through and understood. And once you finally figure out what is bothering you, what the trigger really is, it's like magic. It's like aha moment. It's that breakthrough because, oh my gosh, I'm mad at my mother. This has nothing to do with my husband. I'm mad at my ex-wife. This has nothing to do with my current wife. Correct. And upset people. So hurt people hurt people. So we've all got stuff. We've all got triggers. But if you're triggered, it's your problem. If you're upset, it's your problem. If you're angry, it's your problem. No one's making you anything. You're the one with the trigger waiting to be hit. Like that's the button. Someone just walks by, poop, hits that button, and you're the one upset about it. So what it takes is, someone to be able to listen and help you process through, help you navigate it. It's really hard to see. It's kind of like looking through glasses. You don't see what's on your face. It's like describing water to a fish. When the fish is in the water, it can't really see why it's upset or triggered or how it got that way. It's like describing water to a fish sometimes. But when I'm sitting there listening to people, and my first way of processing that past trigger is, okay, well, what's coming up? What does it seem like? What are they doing to you? How are you the victim of this person? Allegedly. You have to start with that because until you can get them talking about their pain, they're not going to be able to see where it really stems from. And the person in the present time is usually just the button pusher. They're not the real reason. They're not the real betrayer. They're not the real threat. It's reminding them of a trauma. So what just happened with one of my female clients, her and her husband come in. I've been seeing them, I think, 4 or 5 times. And what surfaced today was when I confronted their sex life. And there hasn't been one for a while. He's frustrated, of course, so is she, but she doesn't know why she doesn't feel safe. So there are some, teenage boys in the house, and she has a history with an ex-husband that was abusive. So she got into some sort of altercation with one of the sons, 17-year-old boy. Not her son, it's her stepson. It's her husband's child. And it traumatized her. It scared her. Now, fine, she got nervous and scared about that. That's great. Not great, but, that's what happened. And she hasn't cleared that yet. So she's been shut down sexually ever since. Now, you might say, well, she's taking it out on her husband. She's, punishing her husband. Not necessarily. Women, if they aren't feeling safe, they don't feel like they could be amorous. They don't feel like they can, just have a good time. They're in lockdown. So if you're fearful, if you're not feeling safe here, you're not going to be able to relax to enjoy pleasure. So she's been triggered by this. She actually left the relationship almost a year ago. She got back together with her husband because she still loved him, but she still hasn't cured this, trigger. Now, we can't get rid of the son. We can't, move him out. What are we going to do? They're going to come in together and bring the kid with them. But this son is not the real problem. Okay. The real problem, if I said, who does this boy remind you of? Well, her ex-husband who did violently abuse her. And then why would you pick someone like that to marry? Did something happen to you in childhood? Well, yes, her mother actually was very abusive to her. She was in the hospital multiple times with bruises all over her body. And she thinks she had a health condition, but named ITP, which means you bruise easily. But I don't know. And her mother committed suicide. Her mother had some major mental health issues. She's one of 5 children. So there's a lot to process there. And she really doesn't remember her childhood. People that don't remember their childhood sometimes means, not always, but sometimes means they don't want to remember their childhood. They survive in life by not going back in time. But as I worked with her today, and this again is manifesting in the present time of not feeling safe in her home and being shut down physically, sexually towards her husband, she can't relax. She can't calm down. She's starting to take medication. She's, wanting to maybe smoke pot or something just to calm herself down. And the husband doesn't like this. He doesn't want that happening because his ex-wife was a drug addict. He doesn't want a drug addict to be married. And there's a trigger for him. Okay. You see how this can go. People come in, they got all sorts of stuff going on. So long story short, one at a time, the wife, I say to her, okay, what did the son say? What did he do? He was hurting a little animal. Okay, got it. What did that remind you of? And it takes a minute to stop and look and say, what does it really remind me of? What about my past? Well, it reminds me of my ex-husband. I was like that little puppy. It reminds me of that. And I feel like I'm helpless and I have to make him happy. And if I don't make him happy, I'm going to get hurt. So all of this, okay, let's talk about that. And then she was just antsy. She couldn't physically sit still. She's animated. And I say, what's going on for you physically? Is there some sort of pressure around you? She said, yeah, I feel like there's this huge pressure right here in my chest area. And so I did a mood mass handling. And what a mood mass handling is when some sort of unconscious emotion like surfaces with people, they feel a physical sensation. So she felt this huge pressure right here in the chest. How big is it? Size of a basketball. What's the weight of it? 20, 30 pounds. It's huge. What's the color of it? Black. What's its mood? And it was this menacing, I hate you. It was fear. It was actually terror for her. And I said, if this thing could speak, what would it say to you? And just I hate you. I wish you were dead. All these mean things. And then I said, well, who sent this to you? And it was the face that came to her was her mom. And she said, wow, I see my mother's face. What is that? And I said, well, talk about your mom. What happened with mom? Well, there it is. The real root of her fear that she has run from her whole life was her mother was probably Munchausen's. We don't know. She's going to research some things and see if her mother had Munchausen's. Munchausen's is a disease where it's usually found in mothers or women. And they actually, Munchausen's by proxy is when they harm a child for the attention they get from having a sick child or, someone making them suffer and they're the martyr and they're the saint for taking care of, some sort of sick child, et cetera. So it's an emotional, mental health disease. And she knows her mother had many problems. But when she started seeing, oh my gosh, it's my mom. And the minute she said, it feels like my mom. I said, okay, so what happened? And we start talking about it. That energy just disappeared. It was just poof. Just really pulled away from her and she could start seeing the truth. And that is the phenomenon of truth. Look, when you hit it, when you're in a session, when you're counseling, it's like, is it this? Is it that? Most people don't really know exactly why they're upset. They really don't know what their trigger is. That's why they come talk to me and it's like, okay, well, I know you're upset about your stepson and he was mean or whatever. Okay. But you're the one with the problem with it. You can't just see it for what it is and move on. You're still hung up on it. Because that was the key that went into your brain and unlocked that trauma memory that you've never talked about, never dealt with. And so as we talked about it today, oh my Lord, all these things about her mother and the condition she had where she was always bruised. And, again, she had ITP, which is a bruising disorder, a lack of, I think, platelets in the blood. Or was it that she was getting hurt and was legitimately bruised? So she's going to have to do the work on that. She's got to look and see what really went on there. Her mom's dead. I recommended she talk to the siblings and kind of see if they could spark any memories or other family members that love her that she could have a conversation with, maybe her father. But this is really, really where the true pain was. And now I said, how do you feel about your stepson? Oh, it wasn't really a problem, but it was a gift in a way, in a therapeutic way, to actually make her it actually opened up some sort of pain in her mind that she had not really dealt with yet. And that's what I'm helping her deal with is why she's an upset person. What is causing all the upsets for her? And having a difficult, abusive relationship with a parent, with a sibling, with a grandparent, with an aunt or uncle. Look, these early childhood traumas, they really do linger, and they just don't go away until you're able to handle them. I've had clients, just come in and start dealing with their stuff, and they're in their 50s and 60s, and they say, why is it taking me this long to finally be able to deal with this stuff? Well, you were probably in survival mode. You might have been married, raising children, didn't have the bandwidth, didn't have the energy. You were in a different time in your life. You didn't want to, and you probably couldn't. You didn't want to relive those traumas. It's interesting when people start getting a little bit of space and flexibility in their schedule. Some of these things start getting triggered. Not always. I think if you get triggered, you get triggered, right? But the trigger is the gift. The trigger is, oh my gosh, there's something for you to look at. There's something for you to process. Things don't have to upset us, but if we get upset by them, if we're having an abnormal reaction to the moment, it's like, I'm overreacting to this. Really, what's this really about? Good question. What is it really about? What are you being reminded of? And that question is, what does this remind you of? Really does take a person back into their unconscious mind, into their past, and have them look and see what happened to them. That was the legitimate feeling for. Like if you're paralyzed right now with fear, well, when were you paralyzed with fear in the past that you've resisted looking at, you don't want to deal with? So this is the kind of work I do. This is kind of a typical day for me when I deal with couples. A lot of times couples, they don't know how to help each other. And I triggered her. She's upset. I triggered him. He's mad at me. Yeah, we trigger each other all the time. But you really want to understand that in the field of the mind, it's about what's unresolved in your past. It doesn't mean that person's bad, sick, and wrong for triggering you. No one knows your triggers. I can't read anybody's mind. Neither can you. So we don't know what's going to trigger each other. We just tend to trigger each other by being around. You live with each other, things happen. And sometimes it happens and it's not intentional. But if you're triggered and you really are stuck with some sort of mood, you're stuck with a fear or an emotion or some sort of phobia, and you're on the run, like people drink this away, they take pills. It's like, I've got this overwhelming feeling of anxiety. Why am I feeling anxious? Well, let's look at it. Let's stop and talk about it and process it instead of trying to numb out from it all the time. I don't think that gets anybody anywhere. And I'm not saying you can always resolve it either. It's hard. You have to really be willing to sit and look and deal with your emotions. But there is a phenomenon when people have these past memories surface, there is a physical sensation that kind of comes over people. Like today with my client who had this pressure, this basketball-sized pressure around her heart area. And that's what I call a mood mass handling. And so if there's a major mood that comes around and you're feeling constricted somewhere in your body or this pressure in your system, that's talking to you. That is a trapped emotion. That's a trapped energy. And sometimes it isn't your energy. Sometimes it's somebody else's intention, their energy on you. When we get in fights with people, our words can land a blow. It isn't like we're physical necessarily, but those emotions, that can be a psychic wound. So it is in the realm of a psychic phenomenon, but these energies are all around us, and they kind of magnet things toward us. So it's an energy, and wherever your attention and your energy goes, that's where you create the most results. So when people have fears and phobias, well, that's energy going to create it. So our greatest fears tend to come true because we're putting our energy toward that. Wherever you put your energy is what you're manifesting. So you want to be consciously manifesting, not unconsciously manifesting. And again, a lot of times we don't know what we're manifesting. But again, if you're living life, and you are, if you're triggered, and I say if you get yourself triggered, look, it is up to you to figure out what is that trigger, what is this reminding me of, and take the time to really process through that. And if you get stuck, call me. This is what I do. This is what I'm really good at is really finding the original wound, the root of the pattern. People live their life in patterns. This lady that I talked to today, she divorced her ex-husband. Of course, he was abusive. She should have. But then she had a couple of other relationships that were similar. And now she's with a great man. He loves her. He takes care of her very well. He's a very kind man. And she doesn't want to divorce him, but the son is triggering her. So, is it really, should she run away from this marriage because of the son? Well, no, not necessarily. We can work that out. She can process through it and not react to him like he is reminding her of her ex-husband or her mother. So you want to have composure. You want to be living in the moment right here, right now. But your past, if it gets in the way because you're not complete with it, that can ruin relationships. People get hooked on drugs because of this. People, they don't want to relive their pain, so they run from it. And this because they don't know how to process it. You can stop and process it. You can deal with it, and you can get free of it. That's what I do for a living. And if any of this stuff sounds like I'm your girl to talk to, I'd be happy to schedule some time with you and we can look at what's going on. So if you'd like to schedule some time with me, or you have any questions, or you want to, provide your story, I want to hear your story and feedback of what your aha moment was when you untriggered yourself and you got to the root of what really was your source of pain. I'd like to hear about that. That's the kind of stuff I love. So you can get a hold of me at healwithkimile.com, HEAL with KIMILE.com, and you can book a session with me there. You can also email me at healwithkimile@gmail.com, HEAL with KIMILE@gmail.com. Thanks.